Welcome back. Let's continue with our development. The next task on our list is to implement the feedback feature. To start, we need a button that, when clicked, will display the feedback. Here's how we can achieve that. First, we must ensure that the button is displayed only after the chat is complete and the feedback has not yet been shown. We do this with an if statement, where the first part checks if the interview has reached its message limit and is marked as complete. In the second part, we use the not operator to confirm that the feedback has not already been displayed. Together, these conditions control when the Get Feedback button appears. When the button is clicked, it triggers the Show Feedback function that we created earlier. This function sets both the feedback button clicked and the feedback shown to true. We'll add a line after the button is clicked to let the users know that the feedback generation process has started. Next, we create the feedback screen. We start by checking if feedback shown is true. If it is, we display a new section with a subheader titled Feedback. In this if statement, we create a new variable called Conversation History that joins all session state messages from the session state messages list into a single string. Each message is formatted to show the role, user or assistant, and the content of the message, separated by a new line character, represented by /n. Now, we need to set up another model to serve as our evaluator, following the same steps. We initialize a new OpenAI client instance. Notice that we reference the same API key stored in the secrets file. And again, we add our model name and messages. First, we have our system message. Here, we'll tell the LLM that it's a helpful tool that provides feedback on an interviewee's performance. We'll also specify the format we need, detailed feedback, and an overall score from 1 to 10. Additionally, we'll include specific instructions to ensure the model gives only feedback and doesn't continue the conversation because models sometimes hallucinate and add unnecessary information. We can add a user message where we pass the chat history and says, "This is the interview you need to evaluate. You are only a tool and shouldn't engage in conversation." This ensures that the LLM focuses solely on providing feedback and does not continue interacting with the user. Next, we extract the first message generated by the new model with the following line of code. This step is necessary because the output of the feedback completion function is a structured object containing a list of potential responses, which are referred to as choices. It would look something like this. Each item in the choices list represents a possible reply from the model and includes details such as our well-known roles. So, with this code, we ensure that we extract the first message from the list, which is the feedback. Let's test our application again. Let's skip ahead to the most exciting part. I've already completed the interview, and now I'm posting the final answer to wrap things up and finalize the interview process. Now, at the end of the interview, we should see a Get Feedback button. When you click it, the application processes the chat history and generates feedback. After the application loads, you'll see an overall score out of 10, followed by detailed feedback, formatted as we specified in the prompt. Alright, this looks nice. Another enhancement we can add is navigation back to the setup page, allowing users to start the interview process over again. There's a clever way of doing this with the following code. We first install the library called Streamlit.js eval. This library allows us to execute JavaScript commands directly from Streamlit, enabling advanced functionality like refreshing the page or interacting with the browser. Then, go to the beginning of our file and import the necessary function. We can then add the following code to the feedback page. This way, we restart the interview by refreshing the page, providing a seamless experience for users to begin a new interview session. Let's test the application one final time. For this demonstration, we've skipped ahead to the last question of the interview. Once we press the Get Feedback button, we see the feedback generated by the model displayed on the screen. Now, notice that we also have a new button labeled Restart Interview. When we click it, the page refreshes, and we are seamlessly brought back to the setup stage, ready to start a new session. The next step is to remove the text labels we use to test if the text boxes recorded information. Great, looks cleaner now. Well done, everyone. With this, our application is fully functional and complete. But if you pay close attention to the interview and the feedback output from the large language model, you'll notice that sometimes the responses lack depth, offer generic insights, or fail to provide well-structured feedback. For your homework, I suggest you work on prompt engineering to create better prompts for both the feedback and the interview. Additionally, experiment with tweaking the settings of the model to achieve better results. For instance, you could revisit the scoring system mentioned earlier in the course or implement a question-by-question evaluation. Try adjusting parameters like temperature or top p-values to observe how they affect the feedback quality. Feel free to build on this project. You can improve the design or even change the topic altogether. For example, you could create a debate simulator where, on the setup page, you decide the topic of the debate and the difficulty level. The interview screen would then turn into a debate screen. Instead of feedback, the second model would decide who wins the debate. Alright, in the remaining lectures of this section, we'll cover how to upload our code to GitHub and host our application via Streamlit services. See you there!